Some signs that your team is really the boss of you are if you're juggling schedules all the time, trying to accommodate this person's school schedule, and this person has to take time off to go take their dog out, or my kid is sick, or I want to go to my kid's softball game. If you are juggling, hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here at, I was about to say at Pilates in the Grove. No, another episode of Female Empowered. I'm your host, Krista Gurka. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. It's team building, team leadership, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is how to tell if you are leading your team or if your team is leading you. All right. Basically, are you the boss of you or are they the boss of you? So some signs that your team is really the boss of you are if you're juggling schedules all the time, trying to accommodate this person's school schedule, and this person has to take time off to go take their dog out, or my kid is sick, or I want to go to my kid's softball game. If you are juggling them being late to meetings, to their job, their day, asking for unexpected time off, asking to take 7 weeks off in the summer. You're doing more trying to get them set up for success than they are trying to get themselves set up for success. So what it really should look like is people understanding what their responsibilities are, what they're accountable for, and then being accountable for them. Things should take place where you do not have to be involved, and I'm doing this in air quotes, on call all the time. You should never be worried that someone's not going to show up or they're going to be late all the time. And you should really have people on your team that you can trust to handle situations as they arrive. They're critical thinkers, they're independent thinkers. They understand that if the AC breaks, who they should call so they don't have to bother you when you're on vacation. Okay. Your time off policies are clear. Your expectations of your team and your staff are clear. So it's really important. And this is very, very common in this industry. Well, probably in all small businesses. When I chat with my other friends that are in other industries, but still are owners of small business, one of the things most of us talk about is how challenging it is to have the right people on their team and have people that actually know what their job is and do it. Right. So some of that comes from us as the business owner. Effective team leadership is one of the most critical areas for a business to focus on when it comes to managing a team. Most people actually say that management is considered one of the top 3 most important factors in keeping employees on your staff. All right. So let me paint a picture for you. You have regularly scheduled staff meetings like I recommend, because one of the caveats of a good team and being a good leader is to have regular check-ins with your team. So you have your staff meetings. They are mandatory. People know about them. You're getting ready to start it, whether it's the weekly meeting or the monthly meeting or the quarterly meeting, and maybe a handful, only half of your employees are there. All right. You get started anyways because you value their time. 2 more eventually pop in 5 minutes late. Half of them are on their phone the whole time. You eventually start getting halfway through. 1 or 2 more employees show up. And then basically 2 or 3 just decide never to show, never to call. It's disruptive to you. It's disruptive to your team. The meetings end up dragging on longer than usual because people are coming in and out. And probably from a personal perspective, you're feeling like these people don't give a shit. Like it's like a big FU to you that you've scheduled this meeting to share with them things about what are important in the business, and they've just chosen not to show up. So I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but when that used to happen to me, it was like a big FU to me. It was like a big middle finger, just like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to come. All right. So in workplaces like this, it's unlikely that being late to meetings is the only real problem. All right. Chances are you have people not showing up for work or showing up late, pointing fingers at each other. You have low productivity. You have a lack of teamwork, a lack of trust. And all of these basically stem from a lack of accountability. And accountability starts at the top. So some of the onus we have to take on ourselves as business owners. And I know what happens. Listen, we don't want to be people that are working 80 hours a week doing all of the things. So we hire help. We hire instructors or other physical therapists or people administrators. And then we basically allow them to hold us hostage because we are so scared of losing them that we basically let them get away with a lot of stuff that they shouldn't get away with. And it's really hard to hold people accountable or create a culture of accountability when you're allowing people to do whatever the hell they want. And in the end, this is a job. This is a career. I mean, in my case, the people that work at Pilates in the Grove, this is their career. Most of them are making high 5 figures. Okay, this is a career. And if you want to be treated like a professional, then act like a professional. A lack of accountability really causes a plethora of problems. High turnover because people don't feel valued, low morale, decrease in productivity, clients being unhappy. Okay, what we need to do first is address the lack of accountability on our teams by setting clear expectations and providing prompt, real-time feedback to our team. Okay, I've definitely talked about this before. One of the best books I read about team culture was called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's by Patrick Lencioni. I think we'll link it up in the show notes. And I think it's even on my website under like resources and stuff. I love the book. It's told in the manner of like a fable. So it's a fictional character, a fictional story of a team at a business. And you can really see yourself in all the characters, right? You can really, even though it's a corporation, can't remember right now. I want to say I can't remember what the company actually is right now, but even us as healthcare, wellness, fitness providers can still see ourselves in this story. So I would highly encourage, if you haven't read it yet, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is a great book. It's really easy. It's a really easy read. You could probably even get it on Audible and do the audio version. It's a really great one. So again, the culture and accountability starts on top. So when people come on your team, it's really important that you have a checklist of expectations for them. If your expectation is that they arrive 15 minutes before their schedule starts, then let them know that and hold them accountable for that. If your expectation is that they will contact clients at the end of each day or at the end of the week or at the end of the month or whatever and reach out to them, touch base with them, make sure they know that. If your expectation is that they should come in, they should teach an awesome class, they should provide an amazing service, and that's all they're responsible for, then let them know that. Okay. And then check in with them regularly, make sure they're doing it. And in the words of Brene Brown, clear is kind, right? So be clear about your expectations. And if they're not meeting them, it's okay to say, hey, I noticed you were late to work a couple times this week. Are we going to be able to fix that in the future? It doesn't have to be a long drawn out conversation. But if you don't hold people accountable and they don't know what's expected of them, you can't expect them to do things that they cannot read your mind. I've tried. I would love to make that happen, but they cannot read your mind. It's like, I don't know if you have kids out there, but for those of you that have kids, if you keep threatening, I'm going to take your Xbox away, or I'm going to take your phone away, and you never do, they know that you don't mean anything, right? So if you say meetings are mandatory, but people don't show up, and then there's no repercussions from it, then they just know that it's not true. Or if you say one of our core values is that we all cover for each other, we have to sub, we have to trade off on the weekends, but you allow a few people not to do it, then other people are going to be like, she's full of shit, right? And how can they look up to a leader that doesn't exemplify her own core values? So I'll give you an example of something that happened to us in our business. I don't know, 6 years ago, I can't even remember when it was, but we had an amazing physical therapist, Pilates instructor on our team. She was a former business owner herself. She was amazing. She was incredibly skilled. Her clients loved her. The staff loved her. I loved her. She was really, really talented. But there came a time where like one of our core values is we over me. And one of it is that we work as a team. And she was really never willing to come in on the weekends to cover or sub, or even in the night when somebody was sick or called out because she had a family at home, which I get. I have kids too, right? It came to a head when one day, and I had brought this up to her a couple times. I said, listen, I understand you have small kids at home and the weekends are really tough, but it's really great for company morale if once in a while you do, especially when you want to be off, people are always covering for you. And she just said, I just don't want to work on the weekends. And then one time she said she didn't want to work on the weekend, and then she came in to take class, which I thought was like another big FU, not only to myself, but to the rest of her team. And even though, you know, she was amazing as an instructor, amazing, I finally had to come to terms with say, like, these are the core values and these are the expectations. And if you can't abide by them, you have to make a choice as to what you want to do here. Because this is like, I need you to get on board with this. And she chose to leave. And, you know, I respect her for that. That was her choice. It's her life, but you can't keep being pissed off at things that you don't take action on, right? So as business owners, we have to set the culture and the expectation. If you don't define it, it will be defined for you. Okay. So one of the things we talk about our core values when people, even before they get offered, even before they get an offer at Pilates in the Grove, we talk about our core values. We talk about what our expectations are, right? And so if you have a bad attitude, you'll never make it at Pilates in the Grove. I don't care how good you are. If you want to take 7 weeks off in the summer to go travel, like you just won't work at Pilates in the Grove. That's not the business model we have. If you are a me, I, you will not work at Pilates in the Grove. Now, that doesn't mean you won't be more successful somewhere else in someone else's model and someone else's version, but at Pilates in the Grove, it doesn't align with the core value, the mission, vision, and values that we have set for the company. All right. You know, people nowadays, not all of them, and I'm not going to call out millennials or like Gen Z or whatever. It happens in every generation. Because by the way, I know some Generation X people that are like this. Okay. People act like teenagers, right? They talk about each other behind their back, you know, and if you don't want to get aligned with our core values and what we got going and what we're working towards, then you don't have to be in this business with me. Okay. That life is too short to work at a place that you hate, that you just don't align with their core values. And this is speech I give to the team. Like, this is the tough love part of this conversation. If our core values and yours don't somehow intersect, this is never going to work. And it's not going to work for you either. I would rather reduce my schedule. I would rather let go of an amazing instructor than let people dictate how I run my business. I work way too hard to create a culture that's positive, uplifting, and I don't want to feel like uncomfortable or I'm not welcome in my own business, and neither should you, right? How good we are doesn't matter on our team. At Pilates in the Grove, one of our core values is humbly confident. It doesn't matter how good you are, right? I don't want to hear, well, I don't get the best classes or the best shifts, so why do I care? You know, I don't really want to work on a Saturday, so I'm not going to cover for that person. I don't care about telling people to come to her class because that doesn't behoove me. Like, that's not how we work at Pilates in the Grove. And that, in my opinion, is just a recipe for a lot of silos. It's a recipe for your team being the boss of you. All right. We don't think about ourselves. We don't go me. Unfortunately, now sometimes this is the mentality people have. They dictate what they want. Now, there's nothing wrong with saying this would be my ideal schedule. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I'm not saying we need to go back to like when I was coming out of PT school and they were like, you need to work 7 to 7 Monday through Friday and every Saturday. And I was like, okay, sure. Tell me where to sign up. I'm not saying that. There should be a dialogue, right? But to say, I want to make 6 figures and I want to work 6 hours a week at the best time slots, you have to earn that. Okay. You have to earn the right to be here. We reward, benefit, promote on performance, not on presence. Your presence alone does not dictate a pay increase. Your performance does. Okay. Now, that being said, sometimes complacency and a lack of accountability on your team could be a direct correlation to how you lead your team. Are you putting up with stuff? Are you saying like, these are the rules and expectations, but not following through? Are you transparent as a leader? Are you being vulnerable with your team? And listen, I get it. I've worked on this for so long, like being vulnerable, and it's so hard for me. It's much better now, but I used to rather stab myself in the face with a fork than talk about feelings or being transparent, not really transparent, but being vulnerable. I was brought up to think of vulnerability as weakness. Right. And if you're exemplify or show weakness, people will attack you. And if they can attack you, they can take you down. That's how I used to think. I do not think that anymore. Okay. I do not think that. If I want my team to be honest and open and transparent with me, they deserve for me to be honest and open and transparent with them. Okay. So transparent leaders are approachable. Transparent leaders listen. I've said this before, we have two ears and one mouth for a reason. Transparent leaders show empathy. Now, that doesn't mean that you always say yes to everything. You can certainly say, gosh, that really sounds like a challenge. Why are you late all the time? Well, you know what? I drive from, it's an hour, the traffic is really bad. And, you can empathize with that. You can say, I could say, I totally get that. I remember when I lived 45 minutes away and I used to have to leave the house a little early. What can we do to support you? But what I really need is for you to be here the 10 minutes before your shift starts. So how can we make that happen? You can show empathy. Okay. Transparent leaders admit their mistakes. Yes, they do. All right. I'll give you a perfect example. We were talking at our staff meeting yesterday and we were talking about cleaning equipment. And I said, oh, WD-40 stops the squeaking. And one of my staff members said, oh, I heard you shouldn't use WD-40 on the machines. And I said, oh, I was told you could. I reached out to someone who's very knowledgeable about this. And they said, no, you shouldn't use WD-40. You should use dry silicone or water-based product. I immediately sent a Slack message to my team and I said, I was wrong. I want to correct my mistake. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. This is what we were told to use, and this is what we're going to be using from now on. Okay. And transparent leaders encourage and validate their employees' feelings. Like, you don't have to comply with them or change your opinion on things all the time, but you can certainly validate your feelings. What you are responsible for as an owner or as a person in general is setting clear expectations and then holding people accountable to those expectations. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. So if your staff doesn't like this initiative that you have, you can validate your feelings. Like, I validate their feelings when I'm like, listen, I understand that everyone wants to be off the week between Christmas and New Year's, but I cannot give everyone off. It's one of our busiest weeks of the year because people are on vacation, they have family in town. So I understand that you want to be off, but we have to work this out as a team. So everyone feels like they have their time off, but we can still stay open and operate the business efficiently. So certainly validating people's feelings is important. All right. So when we look at, is your team leading you or are you leading your team? Things to ask yourself: what's the level of trust on your team? Are you holding people accountable? Do they know what they're accountable for, right? Because you have to set clear expectations. Now, this takes time, okay? If you want to learn how to set really, really clear expectations, we have I just wrapped it up, what to do in your first 90 days. It's like a attracting, hiring, onboarding, retaining good staff. It's on our website. So you can go ahead and visit kristagurka.com. It's under the resources and templates tab. It's an amazing video program. So that's great. And this is stuff that we talk about all in my inner circle. So the inner circle of women business owners, we're at 7 business owners right now. I think we're going to have 10 before the fall. But these are some of the things we brainstorm and we role play and we talk about how you can have these tough conversations, how you can hold people accountable without feeling guilty, right? And again, like I said, with Brene Brown, clear is kind. You can, once you get this, once you start practicing this and you get the right people on your team, because sometimes what'll happen is when you start putting this into practice, the people that don't align with it or don't love it, they're going to fall off. They're going to get off the bus. Then you start to put together a team of people that are accountable. And then everybody new comes in, sees how this works, and they're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Right? That's how we have a team, in my opinion, full of all Americans. That's why when I hold one person accountable, I have other people that can fill in and everyone is kind of going through the same thing. And by the way, I help my team hold me accountable too, especially my managers and my director of operations, and say, hey, listen, you're late on this task, or you said that we were going to align, this doesn't really align with one of our core values. Like, I need to be checked as well. And so we have to be big girls and realize that if people are bringing things to our attention, how we react to things, which is why listening is really important. So if you're interested also in having some conversations about this and seeing how other businesses do it and are ready to apply for the inner circle, that you can check out on our website at kristagurka.com/mentorship. Right? Because you work too hard. You have worked too hard for your team to be leading you, to being the boss of you. And I don't want that to come across as like I'm a dictator. No. That's not what I'm saying at all. If anything, my team does all the leadership they need. I don't really need to be in the mix as much anymore. But that came after learning, after listening a lot myself, after working on myself, setting clear expectations, and learning the art of delegating and how to hold people accountable. And I feel like it's taken, I feel like we lost a couple of years in the middle, but now I feel like we have an amazing team right now. The Pilates in the Grove team is primo, right? But it takes everyone to make that happen. So if you're interested, check out my website, visit me on Instagram, go ahead and shoot me a DM over there. I love talking about team building. Okay. Now, another thing that I tell people all the time, like if someone doesn't love clarity, they don't like accountability. And if they don't like accountability, they don't belong on your team. If you want to take anything away from this, it's that. If people don't like clarity, they're not going to like accountability. And if they don't like accountability, they don't belong on your team. All right. Check out the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, and go over to the website. Look up kristagurka.com/mentorship. See if you qualify to apply for the inner circle. And if anything, you can look at the first 90 days of a new hire. It's an amazing, amazing video training. I watched it when I was putting it together and I was like, this is really good. All right. So until next time, my friends, bye for now.